Welcome to the Econobox garage. In this episode of our Bugeye Build, I'll be removing the suspension on the back end of the car and having a look at the floor pans to get a preliminary assessment of what work's going to need to be done. Before filming this week's video, I'd already removed the passenger side suspensions. That gave me a good idea of what to expect when getting to filming. Well, now that I have all the spring and hardware and everything off this side of the car, I just thought I'd show you how this spring is attached. So hopefully that'll help you in your own project. Here's the spring, and as you can see, it's got two holes in the end of it here and a little locating pin. These two holes on the spring line up with these two on the underside of this plate here, and there are a couple of bolts that go up through that plate, through the spring, and into this threaded plate. Now, as you can see, there's the stub of one of the bolts still left in here, and that's because I couldn't get any, or wasn't able to get penetrant up there, and I'll explain that in a second here. So that spring goes into that cavity there, the locating pin goes into this hole, and these two holes, this U-bolt goes across the top of the spring and through these holes, and that clamps the whole spring down to here, and the other bolts hold the other end of the spring down. Now, what was the challenge with this? Because there's a great big pocket where the spring goes in, there's a body panel here, and then the pocket goes all the way back just about to this spot here. That all fills up with dirt around, because the wheel is, the wheel's right here, and it kicks up dirt and that, and over the years this space gets filled with dirt, which is why I wasn't able to get penetrant on that. So, lesson learned. I made myself a little gadget out of wire, and for the other side of the car, which I am about to tackle in a bit here, I use this and a pointy screwdriver or pick to get as much of the dust and dirt and debris out of that spring pocket on the other side of the car so that I could get some penetrant in there. Now, I did this a couple of days ago, and since then I've put a couple of coats of penetrant in there, and hopefully there's enough that's got to that those two bolts that they'll come out a little easier and won't shear off. So I hope that helps. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to move the car to the other side of the garage and flip it over and get to work on the other side. Unfortunately, my preparation didn't work, as both those bolts sheared right off at the top, whereas the other one on the other side did so at the bottom end. So hopefully I can still get this out of here. Well, unfortunately, this side hasn't been going according to my plan, and the two bolts that went in these two holes here sheared off pretty much right at that plate there. Well, the spring is definitely loose in there. I'm just gonna have to figure out the best way get everything out of there. This is the passenger side one, and you can see there's a couple of holes here where bolts go through. Unfortunately, what's happened on the driver's side is those bolts have sheared off and left about a 1/4 inch stub sticking out of the bottom of the spring. And what that means is there's not enough room to get the spring out of the spring box. There's only just enough room to get that much through the opening. So there's the spring, and it won't come out because of those 1/4 inch stubs on the bottom of the old bolts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the U-bolt back on, line this back up where it would normally be installed, wedge it in there as tight as I can, and then drill the two bolts out as much as I need to so that I can slide the whole thing out. When we planned to drill out through the two holes here, it didn't work out, as I wasn't able to clamp it tight enough at this end to get the drill, and it just kept walking off the end of the stub that was in there. So what I've done now is I've gone the opposite direction. I've wedged it up as tight to the top as I possibly could, and then just started using a hacksaw blade in a holder to able to reach in. So had to go quite long on that, and actually I did get started and discovered that the two hacksaw blades I had were really dull. So I've got the first one done. The second one, which is the inside one, is a little bit more awkward to get to, but we're working away and it seems to be working. So hopefully in not too long a time I'll be able to get the spring out of there finally. So I've managed to saw off the two stubs of the bolts that were left. So let's see if that's done the trick. Voila! That makes me a happy boy. So you can see here where I had got the saw in there and cut the two stubs off. It allowed me to slide it right out of there. And let's see. And you can see, I don't know if you can see that, but you can see how thick that stub was sticking up from the spring, and not allowing it to come out. So there we go. Success. Well, mission accomplished. The spring is out on the driver's side, so that means the entire rear suspension is removed from the car. Anyway, I just thought I'd do an assessment of what's underneath. We'll do the driver's side first, and I'll flip it back over and show you the passenger side. So as you can see, there's some rust through here that needs to be looked after, and some over here. So I think I'm going to have to do some repairs to the spring box. So this floor actually doesn't look too bad, all things considered. There is one hole here where it ran over something, and I'm guessing somewhere along the time this ran over a big rock or something. There's a big hole punched in the floor of the transmission tunnel, but that shouldn't be too hard to fix. And down on the inside of the rear quarter panel here, there's a bit of rust through it. It's been patched before. I'll probably just remove that and patch that up, and same with this spot in here. So that's not too bad. The rear lip, where the rear valance joins the floor of the boot, has popped off quite a bit. Still got to remove this bracket here, and then I'll get all the back end of this repaired. I don't think I need to actually replace anything. Boot floor looks solid. The area over the rear axle looks pretty solid, and and the sills look really solid as well, so quite happy with that. So I'll just get the car flipped back over and we'll have a look at the passenger side. Okay, so here's a look at the passenger side. So this is the worst of the rust on the floor, is through here and along here. You can see there's some holes here, some soft spots. All of this here, definite hole up over here. So I do have a replacement panel for this this side of the car, and I'm debating whether to get one for the driver's side. I may just figure out some kind of patch on that, but the dark spots up here are not rust through, so that floor is pretty solid. This is just where I've already cleaned off some of the stuff. So anyway, next steps is to get at it with the wire brush and what have you, and get it all cleaned up and get an even better idea of what has to be done. Well, thanks a lot for joining me in the garage this week. I hope you've enjoyed what you've seen, and please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and don't forget to hit the little bell icon so that you won't miss when the next video gets posted. Thanks again for joining me in the garage this week. We'll see you next time.